I swear by Allah that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
First of all, please make yourself comfortable, Mr. Bunglawala. Could you provide us, please, with your full name?
Sure. My name is Inayat Bunglawala.
Thank you. And you are representing an organisation called Engage, which is a limited company by guarantee. Can you tell us, please, who Engage is and what its purposes and objects are?
Sure. Engage was set up almost 4 years ago now, and it's a Muslim advocacy organisation which seeks to encourage greater civic participation on the part of British Muslims in our democracy. So we try, during election time, we encourage voter registration drives. We encourage people to take an interest in politics. If they have concerns, to raise them with their MPs. We make this information available on our website so people can easily identify who their local politicians are. In addition to that, we also seek to ensure a fairer portrayal, a more balanced portrayal of the faith of Islam. And in pursuit of that, we often are in contact with the Press Complaints Commission and newspapers with a view to seeking a correction of misrepresentations that we believe we've seen in newspapers.
Thank you. Now, you provided the inquiry with a submission in writing dated the 31st of October 2011. Do you have that available?
Yes, I do.
Now, that submission, if you look at page 54254, third line, refers to a parliamentary briefing paper on Islamophobia, which you enclose. In fact, it's not, I think, in the bundle which has been made available to the inquiry, but I have downloaded it from your website. It's an all-party parliamentary group on Islamophobia briefing note dated September of 2010. May I just touch on one or two points you make there in relation to Islamophobia in the media? I know you don't have the document in front of you, but are there any specific points there you could highlight, your concerns about Islamophobia in the media?
Yes. At Engage, we believe that as a society, in recent years, we've moved away from overt racism. We recognize that racism is wrong. We recognize that stereotypes of people are generally wrong, to propagate these, that we recognize it's important to be generally polite in our discourse, and it's wrong to be deliberately offensive. The one exception, it seems to us, or one glaring exception seems to us, is that in recent years the coverage of Muslims has not improved. Sometimes we come across some very, very disturbing headlines which seem to us to be aimed at fomenting prejudice against Muslims. Rather than reporting facts, it's aimed at actually stirring up prejudice towards the British Muslim community.
Thank you. And in relation to that, in the briefing paper, although it's not in front of us now, you give some examples of headlines. Muslim schools ban our culture. Muslims tell us how to run our schools. Britain has 85 underlined Sharia courts, and BBC put Muslims before you. And those are examples from certain sections of the press which you drew attention to Parliament. Is that right?
That's right. We believe these headlines are only serve to really increase prejudice towards Muslims, and they are in fact designed to increase prejudice towards Muslims, which is actually the more disturbing fact.
Can I put this general point to you before we look at your submission to the inquiry, that we all believe in free speech. How do you define, or where do you see the boundary between fair comment on the one hand and unfair, unbalanced, discriminatory comment on the other? If the answer isn't already to be found in my question, I apologise, but it's defining the boundary, please.
I can fully accept that, newspapers are there to report stories, and If Muslims are involved in those stories, then there may be facts about Muslims or the faith of Islam which they need to touch upon, especially in a time when we're facing a terror threat from Al-Qaeda. You know, it will be impossible for newspapers to avoid the subject of Islam and Muslims. Where I think a line needs to be drawn is on a clear falsehood, on where newspapers just tell plain falsehoods in their headline, where they seem to be fomenting prejudice, whereas if we replace the word Muslim with another minority group, we would very quickly recognize this is unacceptable. So I think the same standards should be applied to Muslims as to any other faith group or any other minority group community.
Thank you. And you're entitled, of course, to refer to Clause 12 of the PCC Code, which contains a general anti-discrimination provision, both in terms of race and religion.
Yes, that's right. I remember about 10 years ago, The Sun printed a terrible headline. It was something about the gay mafia. I think it was referring to ministers that were in Tony Blair's government at the time who happened to be gay. And The Sun faced criticism from all quarters for that headline. And I don't think we've seen The Sun repeat that kind of homophobia again, or see nothing that overt homophobia. And I think that's a good step, that we've moved away from that. I'd like to see something similar happen in connection with reporting on British Muslims as well.
Thank you. Now, in your submission, you provide some specific examples, Mr. Bunglawala. If you look, please, at 54254. This was a piece in the Daily Star, Poppies banned in terror hotspots.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that one, please?
Yeah, this was a story in the Daily Star which claimed that the sale of poppies was banned in areas with large Muslim populations, Leeds, Bradford, and elsewhere. And we looked into this story. It seemed incredible to us, and very quickly found that there had no basis whatsoever. Just because poppies may not be on sale does not mean the poppies are banned. Poppies need to be sold by somebody in the first place. So we challenged the Daily Star to ask them to prove that a ban had been in place, and they were unable to substantiate their story. It was taken up with by the PCC, and in the end, a one-paragraph clarification was printed. It's not just that headline. I mean, if you look at that headline, it's Poppies banned in terror hotspots, and then the subheading is Muslim snub to forces. And it's that subheadline, which is actually very, very, very damaging. It's clearly meant to portray Muslims as being disrespectful of the armed forces, disrespectful of Remembrance Day and the sacrifices of soldiers have made in the past. The fact that the Star could not find any evidence to substantiate that story and responded with a one-paragraph clarification, I just find it. It's almost, you get. You just get demoralised, saying, well, I've gone through the process of trying to get this corrected. We've been to the PCC, and what we're seeing is a little one-paragraph response. And we have no idea how many people who's going to see that, and how that can undo the damage done by the original headline.
Could I ask two questions, please? The first is, did the PCC accept a complaint from Engage as opposed to from an individual?
I believe in this case they did, sir. It is true that we've had an issue with third-party complaints in the past, but my understanding is in recent years the PCC may have moved on a bit and may have been more willing to accept third-party complaints.
That's interesting.
Yes.
The second thing is, I think there's a typographical error in your statement, and I was surprised to read it.
Yes, I
this
saw that.
This complaint was successfully resolved by the Commission with the publication for clarification, which we felt should be inadequate.
Yes, exactly. I spotted that as well. Well, you're a good editor.
On the as it reads, it seemed that you were satisfied with the correction.
Yes.
Well, could we make sure that the copy that goes online has the correction put in, because otherwise it's positively misleading?
And we can resend that to you. No problem.
Well, we might be able to do it just by...
Okay.
I've just written in IN. Right, Dean.
The second example, please, Mr. Bunglawala, this relates to a story in December 2007 and a subsequent court case involving Lord Ahmed. Could you tell us, please, about that?
Yes, Lord Ahmed is a peer. He was involved in a car accident at the time in December 2007, and a newspaper in covering this case of the accident referred to him as a Muslim peer, and we wrote to the PCC because the PCC's code of practice says that a person's faith should not be mentioned in a story if it's irrelevant to the story, and we couldn't understand what Lord Ahmed's Islamic faith had to do with the fact that he'd been involved in a car accident. We thought it was fairly straightforward, a fairly straightforward breach of the PCC code of practice. Unfortunately, the PCC did not uphold our complaint and said they believed that the fact that Lord Ahmed was Britain's first Muslim peer therefore made it relevant to the story of his car accident, which, I mean, again, it just strikes us as totally contradicting their own code of practice.